King 1, Alexander the Great, he was 20 years old when he became king. By 32, he was dead. But in those 12 years between, he conquered most of the known world. Alexander the Great of Macedonia didn't just win battles. He redefined what war looked like. He marched his army from Greece to Egypt, through Persia, all the way to the edge of India, over 22,000 miles. On foot, he never lost a single battle, not one. But the real shock wasn't the conquests. It was why he stopped. At the Hyphasis River in India, his soldiers, the greatest army of the ancient world, refused to go further. They were exhausted, homesick, broken. And Alexander the Great, the unstoppable conqueror, wept. He sat in his tent for 3 days and wept like a child. That image, the most powerful man alive, sobbing because the world had run out of places to conquer, that is the image history never forgot. Alexander slept with a copy of Homer's Iliad and a dagger under his pillow every night. But if Alexander shocked the world with his conquest, the next king shocked it with something far darker, something he built to last forever. King 2, Qin Shi Huang, he was the first man to call himself Emperor of China. And he earned that title by doing something nobody had ever done before. He united 7 warring kingdoms into one. Through war, through blood, through absolute brutal force, Qin Shi Huang didn't just conquer his enemies, he erased them. He burned books, he buried scholars alive. He ruled with an iron fist so tight that even thinking the wrong thought was a death sentence. But this king was also terrified of death. He sent ships across the Pacific in search of a mythical potion of immortality. He drank mercury pills because his advisors told him it would grant him eternal life. Instead, the mercury slowly poisoned his mind, making him more paranoid, more violent, more desperate. And when he finally died, he took an army with him, 8,000 terracotta soldiers, buried underground, armed and ready to protect him in the afterlife. Each face unique. Each figure crafted by hand, an entire army made of clay. Because even in death, Qin Shi Huang trusted no one. His tomb reportedly contains rivers of flowing mercury, and archaeologists are still afraid to fully excavate it. Something like this had never happened in history before. But our next king's story isn't about armies or emperors. It's about a boy who became a king, and a mystery that lasted 3,000 years. King 3. Tutankhamun, he was 9 years old when he became pharaoh of Egypt. He died at 19. And for nearly 3,000 years, the world forgot he ever existed. That all changed in 1922 when archaeologist Howard Carter cracked open a sealed tomb in the Valley of the Kings and found something extraordinary, a burial chamber so untouched, so perfectly preserved, that the flowers placed there as offerings still hadn't fully crumbled to dust. Tutankhamun, the boy king, hidden from history by the very people who came after him. Rulers who tried to erase his name from every monument and every record because of the religious revolution his father had started. But his tomb told a different story. Inside, 5,000 artifacts, golden masks, thrones, chariots, weapons, and a golden coffin weighing over 110 kilograms. And then the curse. Within months of the tomb's opening, 12 people connected to the excavation died under mysterious circumstances. The press called it the curse of the pharaoh. Scientists said it was ancient bacteria, but the deaths kept coming. Modern CT scans revealed that Tutankhamun likely died from a broken leg, possibly from a chariot accident, combined with malaria. The boy king didn't die in battle. He died alone, in pain. This king's discovery shook the modern world. But our next king shook his own world. From the inside out, King 4. Ashoka the Great, before he became the world's greatest champion of peace, Ashoka was one of history's most ruthless conquerors. He fought his own brothers for the throne. He waged war across the Indian subcontinent. And then he fought the Battle of Kalinga, a war so catastrophic, so savage, that over 100,000 people died and another 150,000 were taken as slaves. Ashoka won. And then he walked the battlefield. He saw the bodies. He heard the survivors. He smelled the burning. And something inside him broke. This king, This warrior put down his weapons, converted to Buddhism, and spent the rest of his life building hospitals, planting trees along roads, creating animal shelters, and carving messages of compassion into stone pillars across his entire empire. He didn't just change his religion. He changed what it meant to be a king. No ancient ruler before him had ever voluntarily chosen mercy over power. Ashoka proved that even the most violent man alive could choose a different path, and that path could reshape an entire civilization. Ashoka's edicts, carved on pillars still standing today, are among the earliest examples of a ruler apologizing publicly for the suffering he caused. The real shock was yet to come. Because our next king didn't find peace after war, he built something to prove he was never at peace to begin with. King 5. Nebuchadnezzar II built one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. He rebuilt the city of Babylon so magnificently that ancient visitors described it as heaven on earth. He was brilliant, he was powerful, he was feared across the entire ancient Near East. And then, according to the book of Daniel, he went completely mad. Nebuchadnezzar II, the greatest king of the Neo-Babylonian Empire, reportedly began to believe he was an animal. He crawled on his hands and knees. He ate grass like an ox. He let his nails grow like claws. His hair matted like eagle feathers. For 7 years, the most powerful king on earth lived like a wild beast. Modern historians debate whether this was a real illness, perhaps a form of psychosis, or a political story invented by his enemies. But what isn't debated is the destruction he brought before the madness. He destroyed the Temple of Solomon in Jerusalem. He took the Jewish people into captivity in Babylon, an event so traumatic it reshaped an entire religion and its understanding of exile and suffering. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon, which Nebuchadnezzar allegedly built for his homesick wife, have never been confirmed archaeologically. Some historians believe they may have existed in a different city entirely. But Nebuchadnezzar's Babylon was eventually conquered, and the man who conquered it? He shocked the world not by destroying, but by sparing. King 6, Ramses II ruled Egypt for 66 years. He lived to 90. He fathered over 100 children. He built more statues, temples, and monuments than any other pharaoh in Egyptian history. And he put his name on many temples he didn't even build. Ramses II was ancient history's greatest self-promoter, but behind the propaganda was a real warrior. At the Battle of Kadesh against the Hittite Empire, one of the earliest recorded battles in human history, Ramses found himself surrounded, nearly captured, his army scattered, and then he did something extraordinary. He charged, alone, into thousands of enemy soldiers, whether by luck, skill, or divine protection. As he later claimed, Ramses survived. And he didn't just survive, he fought his way out and regrouped his army. The battle ended in a draw, but Ramses declared it the greatest victory in Egyptian history and carved the story across every temple wall he could find, including a version where he was basically a god destroying his enemies single-handedly. He signed the world's first known peace treaty with the Hittites. A clay tablet copy still exists in the United Nations building in New York. When Ramses II's mummy was taken to France for preservation in 1974, it was issued an Egyptian passport, listing his occupation as king deceased. History never forgot Ramses. But our next king is remembered for something that still feels impossible, an act of mercy that changed the ancient world forever. King 7. Cyrus the Great. He built the largest empire the world had ever seen, larger than anything Alexander would build 2 centuries later, and he did it with a weapon nobody expected from a conqueror, kindness. Cyrus the Great of Persia didn't just conquer nations, he freed them. When he took Babylon without a battle, he did something that stunned the ancient world. He let the people worship their own gods. He returned stolen idols to their temples. He freed enslaved populations, including the Jewish people held captive in Babylon, and sent them home. He wrote the world's first known declaration of human rights. The Cyrus cylinder, a clay barrel inscribed with his beliefs that all people deserved freedom of religion and freedom from slavery. 3 centuries before Alexander, 2,000 years before the Magna Carta, Cyrus understood something most conquerors never learn, that you cannot rule people who hate you, so he gave them reasons to love him instead.